Y&R Spoilers reveal in the suffocating atmosphere of Genoa City, the undercurrents of power and betrayal continue to simmer, ready to explode at any moment. Dumas, a new name but has quickly created waves in the business world and behind the scenes of power, is hatching a bold plan to overthrow Victor Newman, a seemingly inviolable monument in the tycoon world. But Dumas clearly understands that to bring down a fortress like Victor, he needs a special weapon. Betrayal from within Victor, and no one else can play that role better than Michael Baldwin. Dumas is not the type to take risks without reason. Every move he makes is calculated, weighing every little detail. He quietly observes Michael, a smart, experienced lawyer, and once Victor's right-hand man in countless shady deals. But Dumas saw something else in Michael: fatigue, pressure, and above all, cracks in the relationship between Michael and Victor. The tasks that Victor assigned to Michael increasingly exceeded the boundaries of professional ethics, causing Michael to be torn between loyalty, personal honor, and the safety of his own family. Billy Abbott, who had long been at odds with Victor, sensed the golden opportunity that Dumas opened up. Billy himself did not need any more motivation to want to take down Victor, but this time, he was really excited to see that he could turn the plots from the shadows into reality. Billy understood that once Michael fell or turned his back on Victor, Victor's empire would be shaken violently, and he was ready to cooperate, even promote Dumas's plan by all means possible. On a gloomy evening, Dumas arranged a secret meeting with Michael. Not in the office, nor in a fancy restaurant where everyone could look, but in a secluded place, with only two men and unpredictable intentions. Dumas did not beat around the bush, making his offer straight. He needed Michael to reveal sensitive information, creating conditions for Dumas to strike precisely on Victor's weaknesses. In return, Michael would receive financial security, power, and especially a ticket to escape Victor's shadow, something he had longed for many years but never dared to do. Michael sat silently, his hands clasped tightly, his eyes flashing with a hint of uncertainty. He knew this was a turning point that could change everything. Not only his career but also his life, honor, and even his safety. Michael had never truly trusted Dumas, but he also understood that his blind loyalty to Victor had led him deeper and deeper into a dangerous quagmire. Between the lines of duty and freedom, Michael feels the weight of the choice he is about to make. Meanwhile, in another corner of the city, Lauren, Michael's wife, spends her days in constant anxiety. Lauren is used to living in fear, worrying that Michael will once again be caught up in conspiracies, turned into a pawn in a never-ending game of power. She understands that after each victory of Victor, Michael has another scar on his soul, another time he is put in danger. Lauren once begged Michael to leave Victor, to return to being the upright lawyer she once loved. But deep down, Lauren knows that Michael still has many reasons not to leave. Recently, Lauren has begun to notice changes in Michael. The pensiveness, the lost eyes, and especially the long mysterious phone calls that Michael never mentions. She suspects that Michael is hiding something big from her, maybe a dangerous deal or a betrayal that, if discovered, will bring everything crashing down. Lauren agonizes over unanswered questions. Is Michael doing all this to free himself from Victor, or is it simply a way for her to forgive and forget her past mistakes with Victor? The exhaustion consumes Lauren, making her irritable, even skeptical of the rare good things that remain in their relationship. Meanwhile, Victor Newman is still intoxicated by the victory of big deals, but he is completely unaware that a storm is quietly forming right under his feet. For Victor, Michael is still a loyal companion, a person who knows too many secrets but has no way out. Victor has warned Michael many times, "Whoever betrays me will never have a good ending." But Victor is too confident in his power of control that he forgets that anyone can exceed the threshold of tolerance when pushed to the limit. Things become more dangerous when Billy begins to show excitement, even openly urging Dumas to speed up the plan to harm Victor. Billy is smart and cunning, so he actively sets a net to lure Michael into a spiral of no return. He presents attractive prospects of a future without Victor, where Michael is free to act, respected, and no longer has to live in fear. Faced with pressure from many sides, Michael began to fall into a state of intense conflict. He considered every possibility, from secretly cooperating with Dumas, to trying to convince Victor to back down from dangerous games. But Michael knew that, with Victor's personality, all warnings were useless. Once Victor discovered even the smallest sign of betrayal, he would not hesitate to retaliate with everything he had. The cruel truth was that Victor did not accept any betrayal, especially from those closest to him. If he discovered that Michael had turned his back, Victor would certainly not only destroy his career, but also threaten the lives and the people Michael loved. Years of experience had taught Victor that loyalty must be tested by fear, and betrayal only once was enough to wipe everything out. In the following days, Michael lived in a state of extreme confusion. He had to deal with Lauren's worried eyes, Dumas's persistent calls, and Billy's relentless questions. With each passing day, the burden on Michael's heart grew heavier. He knew that if this continued, it would only be a matter of time before everything would fall apart. Lauren, sensing the danger approaching, decided to intervene more in Michael's work. She tried to ask, advise, even warn of the consequences if Michael got too deep into this power play. But the more she tried to stop him, the more helpless she felt, as Michael had gone too far, caught up in a whirlwind of ambition and betrayal. Things came to a head when Victor, with his instincts and experience as a veteran, began to doubt Michael's loyalty. He secretly sent people to follow him, quietly checking his transactions and meetings, and then he discovered the first clue about the connection between Michael and Dumas. Anger exploded in Victor, but he chose to remain silent, waiting for Michael to fall into his trap. Finally, on a stormy night, Victor decided to confront Michael directly. Without any threats, just with a cold gaze and deadly silence, Victor forced Michael to confess everything. But instead of forgiving, Victor used this betrayal to deter all those who dared to think of overthrowing him. Michael not only lost Victor's trust, but also faced the risk of having his career and even his life completely destroyed. Billy and Dumas, the outsiders, thought they had won when Victor fell into danger, but they did not expect that Victor still had other cards, ready to counterattack at any time. Lauren, in despair, was both heartbroken and angry, not knowing whether to save Michael or free herself from this endless cycle. All that remained was waiting. Waiting for the next storm of power, for the consequences of betrayal and loyalty, for the final choices that no one knows for sure where they will lead everyone, hell or heaven. Genoa City, once again, stands on the threshold of an unprecedented war, where every trust can turn into betrayal, and every betrayal can be paid for in blood and tears. In the thick atmosphere of power intrigue in Genoa City, everything seems to be waiting for an explosion when all masks are removed, all loyalties are tested, and all secrets are revealed. Michael Baldwin. The lawyer who was once considered Victor Newman's trusted right-hand man, is now standing at a crossroads in his life, where every choice can drag him and his loved ones into a spiral of danger. Lately, Michael has felt the weight of the tasks that Victor continuously assigns to him. These are not only difficult jobs, but also moral challenges, orders that make him face his conscience, honor, and family affection. Lauren, Michael's wife, is increasingly tired and stressed, seeing her husband delve deeper into Victor's dark world, where loyalty is sometimes just a cover for fear and dependence. How many times did she try to persuade Michael to find a way to let go and return to peace, but how many times did all her efforts only lead to endless rounds of arguments? Lauren was worried, miserable, and gradually became suspicious. Was Michael doing everything for her, or just to hide something else, or simply because he could not escape the deadly attraction of power and danger? Dumas, an ambitious and mysterious man, clearly saw the contradiction and conflict in Michael's heart. He knew that if he wanted to defeat Victor, he could not rely on external strength alone, but needed someone from within to betray him, and Michael was the perfect chess piece. Dumas began to approach, making attractive offers, painting a vision where Michael no longer had to live in fear, where all values were reversed and all of Victor's old rules became meaningless. Despite Lauren's objections, Michael was determined to meet Dumas himself. It was a carefully considered choice, formed through many sleepless nights, contemplating the boundaries between life, honor, and personal happiness. Michael lied to Lauren that everything was fine, but his eyes shone with a strange determination. He promised her a surprise, and prepared for her a long, emotional speech about everything he had experienced during his years working for Victor, the secrets, the conspiracies, the moments when he faced the most fragile moral boundaries. During that long conversation, Michael confessed all his inner crises, the orders he was forced to carry out to remain loyal to Victor, even though he knew they were immoral and dangerous. Finally, he affirmed to Lauren, "I chose you over my boss." It was a new vow, a fragile hope that all the storms would end, that in the end, love and family would be the final destination of every stormy boat. Lauren was truly surprised by his frankness and determination, but deep inside her heart there were still doubts that could not be erased. Michael had said goodbye to Victor before, then returned, like a moth that could not stay away from the flame of power. Lauren loved her husband, but she was too tired of the spiral of insecurity, of the feeling of always having to worry, be on guard every time Michael left the house for unclear meetings, the risky missions that Victor assigned. She wondered if this time was really different, or just another act to ease her worries. On Victor's side, everything seemed to be going according to plan. He had no idea that Michael's loyalty had been broken, that his close companion was preparing to strike a fatal blow. But Victor was not one to be fooled. The survival instinct of a ruler always kept him alert, ready to respond to any threat, no matter how small. Meanwhile, Dumas could not hide his triumph. He arranged a private meeting with Michael in a secluded place, just the two of them, and the secrets would be exposed. Dumas presented his plan in detail. He wanted Michael to help him expose the weaknesses in Victor's defenses, paving the way for a series of attacks to bring down his empire. In return, Michael would receive freedom, money, and a future without living in anyone's shadow. Billy Abbott, with a long-standing hatred for Victor, was excited to learn of Dumas' plan. He was willing to help and fuel the plot to overthrow Victor, even actively trying to seduce Michael, pushing him closer to the edge of betrayal. Billy saw Michael not only as a tool but also as a potential ally, someone who could help him realize his ambition to defeat Victor from within. Michael, after all, was standing at the threshold of no return. He knew that once he started, there would be no turning back. This choice would decide everything. His career, his honor, his family, and even his life. Lauren felt it clearly. She was afraid, insecure, even suspected that all Michael did was just to make her forget everything in the past, forgive him for his mistakes related to Victor. But the reality was not that simple. In Michael was a storm torn between love, loyalty, and survival instinct. When Michael officially embarked on Dumas's plan, everything began to change rapidly and dangerously. He used the knowledge, experience, and trust that Victor had given him to break down each layer of defense, each big and small secret in the Newman Empire. The information he provided to Dumas gradually put Victor in a passive position. Business deals began to show signs of cracking, and more importantly, those close to Victor gradually left him or turned to the enemy. Victor began to feel that something was wrong. He quietly observed Michael, re-examined all the data, transactions, and people who had recently contacted Michael. With the instinct of an experienced person, Victor gradually put the pieces together and realized a painful truth: Michael had betrayed him. The rage inside Victor was like a volcano waiting to erupt. For him, this betrayal was not only a personal failure, but also a fatal blow to the trust, honor, and authority he had built up for so long. Billy, seeing Victor in danger, becomes even more excited and eager to see his arch-rival fall. He and Dumas plan to continue their attack, not only with the information Michael provides but also with new tricks, turning Victor's every weakness into an advantage. Lauren, meanwhile, sinks deeper and deeper into a spiral of insecurity and fear. She sees Michael growing more distant, living in pressure, stress, and nightmares that haunt him every night. Lauren is heartbroken to realize that, despite all her efforts, she cannot protect her husband from the pitfalls of power and ambition. Each time Michael insists that it is all for her, Lauren feels more conflicted, as their good fortune is gradually swept away by endless conspiracies. Finally, when everything is revealed, Victor decides not to forgive Michael. He unleashed cold and ruthless attacks, ready to destroy not only Michael's career but also his honor and future. All alliances began to crumble. Those who had stood by Michael abandoned him, leaving him and Lauren to face an uncertain future, full of darkness and unanswered questions. Genoa City was once again shaken by a storm of betrayal, where all trust could be broken at any moment, and everyone had to pay the price for their choices, whether for love, honor, or survival. Michael, Lauren, Dumas, Billy, and Victor. Each of them carried wounds that could not be healed, injuries that could not be put into words, and when the night fell, only the sighs of those who had dreamed of a happy ending remained.